The ocean is empty this morning. 30 miles off the coast of Singapore, a box ship longer than 4 football fields glides forward at 20 knots. Its engine has been silent for 3 minutes. The captain rang down full astern 90 seconds ago. The propeller is spinning backward, clawing at the water, trying to drag 200,000 tons of steel and cargo to a halt. The ship is still accelerating. That is not a malfunction. That is physics. Today we answer one question: why does the largest moving object most of us will ever see need 3 miles of open ocean to stop, and what actual trick do engineers use when water alone will not save them? The problem begins with a number most of us never think about in human terms. Momentum. Not speed. Momentum. The physics is elementary: momentum equals mass times velocity. Double your speed, you double your momentum. But double your mass, you double your momentum just the same. A container ship does not move fast. 22 knots, roughly 25 miles per hour, is cruising speed for an ultra-large container vessel. That is slower than your car on a residential street. But the ship weighs as much as 2,000 fully loaded semi-trucks. The momentum is not twice as large as a truck. It is 2,000 times as large. And momentum is what determines how hard it is to stop. Here is the shape of the problem. The Maersk class, one of the first ultra-large container vessels when she launched in 2006, has a loaded displacement of roughly 170,000 tons. The newer Megamax vessels, the 24,000 TEU ships built in the last decade, push past 200,000 tons fully loaded. Picture that. Not 200,000 pounds. 200,000 tons. 400 million pounds. The entire mass moving forward at 22 knots. To stop that, you need an equal and opposite force applied over time. On land, we use brakes. Friction pads clamp steel rotors. The kinetic energy turns into heat. The car stops in seconds. A ship has no brakes. Water does not grip. That is the core misunderstanding. People assume water resistance will slow a hull the way air resistance slows a parachute. It does not, because a ship is not shaped like a parachute. It is shaped like a knife. The hull is designed to part water with as little resistance as possible. Hydrodynamic efficiency is the entire point. At cruising speed, the Maersk's engine produces roughly 80,000 horsepower just to overcome the drag of the water and keep her moving. That sounds like a lot of resistance. It is not. Cut the engine, and that drag barely touches her. She will coast for miles. Engineers have run the numbers. A fully loaded ultra-large container vessel, engine stopped, will glide forward for more than 2 nautical miles before water resistance alone brings her to rest. That assumes no wind, no current, no waves. In real conditions, she may drift even farther. 2 miles. 10 minutes. No input. Just the geometry of the hull and the inertia of 200,000 tons. So the engineers cannot wait. They have one tool, the propeller. Specifically, a stern thrust. Reverse. The ship's propeller, usually a single fixed-pitch bronze assembly 25 to 30 feet in diameter, is told to spin backward. The engine does not reverse. The engine on most large container ships is a 2-stroke diesel, and 2-stroke engines can run in either direction. The fuel injection timing is adjusted, the camshaft phasing flips, and the entire crankshaft begins rotating the opposite way. The propeller follows. Now instead of pulling water from the bow and pushing it toward the stern, the propeller is trying to pull water from the stern and throw it forward. The thrust reverses. The ship begins to fight its own momentum. This is called a crash stop. Full astern from full ahead. Emergency maneuver. It is not gentle. The engine goes from pushing the ship forward at 22 knots to dragging it backward as hard as it can. The propeller is now a brake. But it is a brake made of water, not friction, and water does not hold the way steel does. The figures are public. The MSC Gülsün, one of the largest container ships afloat as of 2019, has a length overall of nearly 1,300 feet and a capacity of 23,700 TEU. Her main engine is a MAN B&W 11G95 C9.5, producing roughly 75,000 horsepower. At full load and 22 knots, executing a crash-stop maneuver, she will travel roughly 2.8 nautical miles before coming to rest. That is 3.2 statute miles. 15 minutes. The propeller screaming in reverse the entire time. Why so long? Because the force is still small compared to the inertia. Think of it this way. Imagine trying to stop a freight train by dragging your heel on the ground. Your heel generates friction, real resistance, but the train is so much heavier than your leg that the deceleration is measured in fractions of a percent. The propeller in a stern thrust is the same. It produces tens of thousands of horsepower in reverse, but it is fighting 400 million pounds already in motion. The deceleration is real but gradual. Momentum does not vanish. It has to go somewhere. In this case, it bleeds away as turbulence in the water and heat in the engine over the course of 3 miles. Here is the trick most people miss. The crash stop is not really about the propeller. The propeller helps, but the true engineering is in the planning. Ships this large do not stop on demand. They stop on schedule. Port authorities, harbor pilots, and traffic control systems coordinate arrivals days in advance. A container ship inbound for the port of Rotterdam begins slowing 30 miles out. The engine drops to half ahead, then slow ahead, then dead slow. The momentum is bled off in stages, over an hour, so that by the time the pilot boards and the tugs make contact, the ship is moving at 5 knots and can be nudged into position. The crash stop is the emergency. The everyday engineering is never needing it. But emergencies happen. Which of these machines would you least want to be standing next to when the brakes fail? Tell me below. There is one more layer. A fully loaded container ship does not just move forward. It moves forward with a turning circle measured in miles. The rudder on an ultra-large container vessel is a steel plate roughly the size of a 2-story house. It redirects water flow to push the stern one way or the other. But redirecting flow on a hull this long, this heavy, this deep in the water, takes time. The tactical diameter, the width of the smallest circle a ship can turn, is often 15 to 20 times the length of the vessel. For a 1,300-foot container ship, that is roughly 4 miles across. Add in the stopping distance, and you see the geometry. A ship this size needs miles of empty ocean to maneuver. There is no swerving. There is no sudden stop. There is only slow, deliberate deceleration and the hope that the math was done correctly 30 miles ago. People assume the danger is speed. It is not. The danger is mass. The Ever Given, the container ship that blocked the Suez Canal in March 2021, was not speeding. She was moving at roughly 8 knots when a gust of wind caught her stacked containers and pushed her bow into the eastern bank. 8 knots. 9 miles per hour. But she weighed 220,000 tons fully loaded, and once her bow touched sand, momentum did the rest. She drove herself aground and stayed there for 6 days. No amount of reverse thrust could pull her free. The physics were clear. Momentum had been converted into pressure against the canal bed, and pressure that large does not reverse without external help. They needed dredges, tugs, and a high tide. The false belief is this, that something moving slowly is easy to stop. It is not. A container ship at 20 knots carries more kinetic energy than a loaded passenger jet at takeoff. The jet has brakes, reverse thrust, and a runway designed to stop it. The ship has 1 propeller and 3 miles of ocean. The engineering is not in the stopping. The engineering is in never needing to. So here is what actually happens. The officer on the bridge calculates approach speed based on displacement, sea state, wind, and current. The engine is throttled back in stages. The pilot boards. The tugs make fast. By the time the ship reaches the berth, she is moving at half a knot, nudged by water and steel into a slot 6 inches wider than her beam. The crash stop is a failure mode. The real engineering is the choreography that makes 3 miles feel like 3 feet. The next time you see a container ship on the horizon, moving at what looks like a crawl, understand what you are watching. Not a slow machine. A heavy one. Heavy enough that stopping is not a button. It is a ballet of thrust, drag, time, and distance, performed in silence across miles of open water by engineers who know that momentum, once given, is not easily taken back. The machines that move the modern world are stranger than they look. Subscribe, and we will take apart the next giant together.